Hello guys, welcome to the first official building episode of the Wheeling and Lake Erie West End Route Building Series. In today's episode, I mainly focus on the area, in a small area west of Spencer, Ohio, on the Wheeling and Lake Erie's Cary subdivision. Spencer is a small town in Medina County, and it's often referred to as the crossroads of the Wheeling. It's where four of the Wheeling and Lake Erie's major subdivisions kind of come together. They do it at a diamond, kind of in the middle of town. There's the Akron subdivision, the Cary subdivision, the Heartland subdivision, and the Brewster subdivision. All of the subdivisions run to or through the towns of their respective name. So that there's a little bit of context of just a little background of what I'm working on in this video. If the quality of the voiceover isn't necessarily the best, I apologize. This is pretty much my first time doing this on a larger scale than the introduction video. There might be a couple spots where I'm not exactly sure what to say. There's usually going to be some points where I don't even know what to talk about. Like in this video, commentary might be a little bit sparse because it's just fields and whatnot, and I not really a way that I can find to make that super interesting, but I can describe my process with it. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the UTM tile beneath the actual route um, to kind of outline where the fields are. So I can get the fields put down, I can get the little median, the little grass barrier between them, and I can also outline where trees are supposed to go, just get it all done in one swipe. It's actually kind of helpful. You see more of it later on in the video. Uh, it just helps, knowing where the fields are, especially since I can't exactly tell where they are without going into wireframe mode. And of course, when you go into wireframe mode, you can't see the textures. You can't see textures that you're putting down. It's just helpful to use as a basis. And any pauses where the mouse straight up disappears, or I'm just sitting in one area for a little bit, um, in those little instances, I've tried to trim a lot of them out, but I'm just glancing at Google Maps to see what's supposed to go where with better quality. Now I will say, kind of bringing it back into the route, I'm starting a little bit west of Spencer because I don't necessarily want to work on the residential area just yet. Not quite had the motivation to do that. It's not the largest residential area that I'm going to have to work on. It's kind of beat out by Norwalk, but just not ready for it yet. And this grass splotch that I'm putting in here, I'm also not really excited for, but that's mainly because it is a car kind of recycling facility. Not really a facility, it's just like small town scrapyard. There's piles of cars and whatnot. It's going to be really tedious to build, and not looking forward to it, but I have faith that once I'm actually doing it, it won't be too bad. Like I said, it'll just be really tedious. And I will bring this up now. Usually what I try to do, how I build, is when I'm putting textures down, if it's something like a field, just outline it with the grass, go in, add the actual field texture. But if it's something where there's actually buildings and whatnot, usually what I like to do is try to place the buildings, kind of get them kind of sorted, like lined up with the textures and what the map overlay underneath might say, and then also glancing at Google Maps. Then after that, come in, do the textures. It's a lot more prevalent with the houses that I do every now and then. And there's a little farm. You can kind of see me do it, but it's just how I like to do things. I feel like it makes it easier for also planning out where driveways and whatnot will go. I'm saying and whatnot a lot. And I did mention this in the introduction video, but I'm gonna mention it again. I do not really intend on releasing the route anywhere. It's probably going to stick that way, but content will be made for the route in the form of locomotives and rolling stock. Most of it will be available on wigwagsimulations.com.net as freeware in the form of locomotives and rolling stock. Here, this mud texture, I might go back and change that because, oh, and there's the jump, but I might go back and change that just because the way the PBR works with it makes it kind of funky, and when you look at it from certain angles, but and it doesn't exactly look the best. It just turns pitch black, and it's not really it really doesn't look the best. So I'm probably gonna go back and change that. But here I am laying the buildings out before I put down the textures, just kind of make sure everything's all oriented correctly. Even though that barn looks kind of kind of goofy. That's another thing I might go back and change if I can find better barn assets. It also doesn't really help that this specific street in Spencer doesn't have Google Street View, so I can't get a better idea of what it looks like. I'm just purely going off of the satellite imagery instead of actually Street View. And all those cars sitting there, the TRC traffic stoppers, they're a little goofy like that. I haven't exactly figured out a way to get them to not, just to get the cars to not line up like that once I put them down and get them all set up. Granted, I'm not really all too experienced with that, but yeah. So the entire time that I was recording this and other segments of the video, the cars were just sitting there, honking their merry little hearts out. Yeah. This pit right here, not exactly sure what it is. There's pipes running to it from the Google Earth view, just like one pipe. So I'm thinking it might be something to do with manure, but I'm not exactly sure. The silos for the silage, and it just overall has the look of maybe a dairy farm. So it would make sense if that was something for manure. I just filled it in with water because I don't really know of any good manure assets, and just water feels like it's more plausible. I don't know. If anybody has any tips or tricks on how to get the cars to stop lining up like that when I place the traffic stoppers down and get them all hooked up, it would be appreciated. Um, Granted, I haven't really asked anywhere or looked into it too much, but just it does get a little bit annoying. I try to drown it out. Usually it works. That silo placement looks a little silly, but again, with the lack of street view, it kind of it looks like that. It looks a little different. I'm just trying to recreate this to the best of my ability. That's how this entire route's going to be. Not everything's going to be perfect, but I'm going to try and do it to the best of my ability. But I will say though, I am very happy to finally be working on a transtem for the Wheeling Lake Erie. I've done a few modules of Spencer and Heartland Yard, but I wanted to save like my utmost effort for this, so it wasn't something that I got burned out with or got tired of. And frankly, with how things are looking, there's only specific things that I don't want to do. So the future looks promising for this route. Like I said, it's not going to be released anywhere, but I just wanted to just thought I would try something new. I've never really done a route building series to this capacity, but I've got this large route. Kind of in the introduction video, I kind of highlighted how far it extends, and there's going to be a lot of okay, I wouldn't say there's going to be a lot of different things, but it's going to be something different. I've never built a transtem before, and this is just kind of how I'm doing it. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but the results look promising so far. Here I'm starting to lay down some shrubbery next to the tracks, kind of making it its independent scene. As I start doing the residential area, I'm going to kind of connect it a bit better. I only have two other areas on the route that I would consider like complete, and that would be the Quarry Road Railroad crossing and just the western end of the Heartland Yard. They were shown in the introduction video. I don't really show them too much in this video unless I'm jumping over to those sections of the route or those areas on the route to grab assets for trees and textures and whatnot. If anybody has any questions on what assets I'm using for certain things, I will try to answer them to the best of my ability in the comments. I'd say my process for kind of bringing scenes together with shrubbery and trees, just overall greenery. Um, what I like to do is start with the textures. Once all the textures are finished, bring in the splines, and kind of move up with the grass, do shrubs and the trees. I I feel like I can, and then just touch it up afterwards. I feel like that gives me pretty good control over what it is that I'm trying to do, and it's just my way of doing things. I don't know if there's a better way. I don't know if there's a different way. Just I like how the scene ended up turning out. That's my process for it. The majority of the trees and bushes that I like to use immediately trackside are the STRMM assets. It's usually good that I find that it's usually good to go in once I have them all placed down and just kind of adjust the heights of them all. I haven't just because of the make it seem like there's more variation than there might actually be. Um, as I start to get away from the tracks, I like to kind of start using the billboard trees just somewhere that's not immediately trackside. That's where I that's where the billboard trees come in. And then I try to blend it as you start to get closer. So right there, I just put billboard trees down as I started to get away from the tracks, and then kind of tried to blend it with the STRMM assets, the speed trees. Uh, Next to the houses, I try to use the speed trees too if they're kind of close to the tracks. If it can be used, just if it's closer to the tracks in a scene like that, and it's just not a stupid amount of trees, then I'll use the speed trees. Any other time, billboard trees, the farther away you get from the tracks. It just makes everything run better. Also doesn't look too bad. At least that's what I found. Just following advice that I've also heard or read. Here I'm extending the power lines up to the Route 162 railroad crossing, of course in this video, doing the scenery, terraforming what little amount that I have to do, since it's a transtem. I just, I go crossing by crossing almost as a way to kind of as cutoff points, I do the scenery up to one railroad crossing and they're usually spaced out enough where, I mean, I can do a couple crossings, but then like with the Hunter Road railroad crossing, I just kind of stop there and then I just record what I do between X crossing and X crossing. Well, with all that, I don't really think there's too much that I can say. If there are any questions, put them down in the comments. I'm going to let the route building play out from here. Alrighty guys, that brings us to the end of this video. Not much to do in terms of cinematics. I don't really have enough of the route done to satisfaction for any kind of recording, at least yet. The SD40-2s that I used in this clip, in this patched BN paint scheme, are now out on Wigwag Simulations. Go and pick them up, or don't. I can't influence your decisions. Remember, you have free will. Alright, thank you guys for watching.